everybody. It's Kevin Markarian, and I'm with my good friend Keri Shull, and we're here. We're going to be talking about buyer expectations. We have a really awesome presentation for you guys today. Keri's one of the very best agents, team leaders in the country. She has 51 people on her team. She had some explosive growth, and we're going to talk all about leverage and how Keri took her business from 21 transactions to 365 transactions in 5 years. That's so impressive. So Keri, thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we jump right in, first I just want to say that this episode of Real Labs is sponsored by LCA Marketing Center. So if you guys haven't checked out LCA Marketing Center yet, you should definitely do that. So Keri, tell us. Let's jump in. Let's get right to it. We want to talk about, well, first of all, I know you said you want, Keri's so awesome. Like, she's like, I don't want to talk about me. I only want to talk about how I can teach agents and help them. But let's talk a little bit about you and kind of like why you're on the call today, how you've been able to achieve such explosive growth, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the stuff that you really want to do, which is contribute and help other people.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll give you a little backstory. I started my career in new construction sales, and I thought I loved it. If anyone out there has ever done it, you are stuck in a sales center. That's the only bad news. So when I transitioned into selling condos for developers, I realized I loved that a lot more. And then when I started in general brokerage, I didn't really know that I never meant to be a real estate agent. It just kind of happened. It wasn't my intention. I went with one of my mentors, and I kind of woke up one day and was like, I need to start selling some homes. And I remember looking around my office, and there were agents that were really productive, but they seemed like they were doing a lot of business, and they were so busy and they were so drained, and they didn't have any time for their family. Then there were the other agents that were just hanging out and had a lot of time to talk, but didn't really have that much to contribute, right? Because they weren't doing any business. And so I, in the very beginning of my career, decided I needed to focus on getting the right coaches and mentors. And so I was sharing with Kevin earlier, my biggest weakness is I hate the phone. So a lot of people out there are amazing prospectors. And for me, I did like 19 transactions my first year. So I was definitely, I was good at what I was doing, but I wasn't a rock star. And when I identified, okay, my biggest issue is I don't want to get on the phone, I hired 3 ISAs like right out of the gate. And that was the leverage I needed to really grow my business and explode.
Wow. So that takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of, bravery, right? I mean, to get
a lot of ramen noodles, right?
Yes, and that too. Because you don't have very much money starting out, right? And to go in and just hire 3 ISAs right off the bat. I want to ask you about that, but before we get into that, you mentioned something about coaches and mentors. And you and I met at a really awesome mastermind called Closing Table.
Yeah.
With some of the very best people in the industry, like the best of the best, great people. Sam Kramian puts it on. And tell us how that happened, like coaches, mentors, like who did you reach out to? If someone wants to do that, what are your recommendations?
Well, the first thing I did was reach out to my broker, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I remember like almost getting on my hands and knees begging for him to just teach me how to explain the contract to a client. I said, listen, I've explained contracts before, but I'm new to this contract. Can you just sit down with me and take 5 minutes and teach me the contract so I know how to present it? And he kept avoiding me, and I'm pretty assertive. So eventually I'm like, sit down. Yeah, so here's the problem. I actually haven't read the contract in 15 years, Keri. I don't even know what it says.
Wow.
So what I realized in that moment, which was becoming very clear to me my first few weeks in the business, is like, I'm not going to get, and I was at Remax at the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of awesome Remax brokers. And my broker, I loved him. He was a good guy, but he was not the right person to train me to help me be successful in the business. And a lot of brokers out there, if you just think about it logically, if they were amazing at the business and they were making millions of dollars, why would they go be a broker, right? So my realization was I'm going to have to look outside of my organization to find the right coaches and mentors. And the first person that I joined was Craig Proctor. And a lot of people know who Craig is. He was absolutely amazing for my business and helped me to really learn about direct response marketing to explode it.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So you went from finding a coach mentor and did that coach help you like take that leap that you took with hiring 3 people right off the bat?
Oh, totally. I was like living the dream, going on a lot of vacations because I didn't have a lot of clients to help, right? And doing all right. 19 transactions isn't terrible for my first year, but I certainly wasn't applying my drive and my passion for the business because I didn't feel clear on my vision. And joining a coaching program for me helped me get clarity and also helped me to become really brave because I saw social proof. I was surrounding myself by other people who had been where I wanted to go. And so once I saw, Joe did it and Jeff did it and, Sally did it and all these people did it, I'm like, if they did it, I can do it. So I remember the day that I decided like, all right, I'm going to hire and I'm going to scale and I'm going to grow. And that was when I had done 21 transactions that year. And so I just started putting all my money back into growing the business.
So that's just a question that comes up a lot and talked about a lot. A lot of people think about it. So now with and this was a while ago when you did this, right? So this was before like Facebook, before.
Are you calling me old?
No, I'm not calling. No, you said 5 years. You said 5 years. So it's been at least 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you some dates. Okay. 2008 when I got into business. When I hired my first coach, it was 2010.
Okay, so that was before like the boom of social media, before like access to all the things we have access to now. So do you still think like now is with everything available, like even with lab coat agents, do you recommend someone going out and hiring a coach, or do you think it's good to like, is that necessary? What are your thoughts on that now?
I believe that everyone needs coaches and mentors, and you can get them in different formats, right? So someone may have a different challenge than I had. Part of what I needed was consistent social proof, like seeing an interview today. If you're watching, seeing an interview with me may inspire you to go higher to compensate for your weakness. If you've been telling yourself, like, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know if I can afford it, my advice is, and my coach gave me this advice, break it down and look at it by month, not by year. Because when you imagine paying someone $40,000, I mean, $40,000 is a lot of money, but can you make that money back if you just divide it into the monthly increments? How long will it take for that person to contribute to your business in a way that they're paying for themselves? So in answer to your question, yes, I still believe people need coaches and mentors. I just think they come in different packages. So for me, Sam has become an incredible mentor to me through Closing Table. Yeah. And Sharon has become an incredible mentor to me, and I met him at Closing Table. So the relationships are packaged a little differently. But if I were getting in the business, here's what I know for sure. I would be consistently surrounding myself with people who have done way more business than I have, right? And I would look for the people whose lifestyle and income and everything matches what I want in my life, and I would go find them and try and figure out how to be valuable to them so they want to help. So with Craig, I was the person on stage that talked about his program because he helped me grow so quickly that I wanted to help his business grow as well. And I feel the same way about Closing Table, and I'm sure you do too. Like anyone who I care about, I want them to know about that organization because it's changed my life.
What you said something there that's really, really, really profound. And I don't want to like stick on this because I know you want to talk about, everything we discussed before the call, but you said provide value to your mentors, provide value to your coaches so that you become like, there's value in having you around, then you end up learning from them, that's brilliant. And you mentioned Sam Kramian and Sharon Shrivastava. You guys, those are 2 really amazing people. You guys should definitely follow those guys, look at what they're doing, and there's just a huge amount of value there. So let's talk real quick about leverage. So you're big on leverage. You went straight into hiring 3 ISAs right off the bat. Let's talk about that and how you've created leverage within your business.
Well, I think what's happened over time is I've been realistic that I am not the only real estate agent out there. And if you guys are honest with yourselves, that if I had the choice of meeting with a live client that wants to buy a house right now, or sitting there and calling people on the phone that are going to buy a house in a year, I am better with the person who wants to buy a house right now, right?
Right.
And I believe most salespeople feel the same way, that want to be in a face-to-face, relationship with their clients. And so I think there's other salespeople that are amazing on the phone. They like the consistency of having a schedule. There's benefits for them of that. So what I've done is said, all right, other salespeople who are good salespeople like I am may benefit from a system where they get appointments instead of leads. And so we've grown our ISA department now, and I think they just crossed 1,200 appointments for the year.
Wow.
So they just are incredible, and they book really great appointments. So the leverage that I created for myself with ISAs, now I've created that for my entire team, and they have some really impressive results. My top producer last year did 40 million of business herself, right?
Amazing. All by herself.
Yeah. No team. Well, huge team.
Well,
right?
So
our team.
Support, yes, but like she doesn't have like assistants and different people. She did it all on her own.
Nope. And actually this year, so in 2018, she does. So we're testing a model where we're creating additional leverage for our agents, and we're trying to encourage them to grow teams within the team, just like I leveraged them. How do they leverage a partner, right? And how can they grow? So it's pretty cool.
So it is really cool. And one of the things I think people have difficulty with is like the implementation of those systems, of that process, right? So like, what was the most difficult thing for you putting those systems and processes in place after you hired those 3 people?
Well, you want me to go back to when I first hired the ISAs?
Yeah.
Okay. So number one lesson for anyone out there hiring a team, you're going to get it wrong probably more than 50% of the time at first, right? So I think a lot of people have the same experience where they hire the wrong person. I remember the first 3 ISAs I hired, and one of them worked out. One of them, her boyfriend broke up with her and she moved to Florida very suddenly. And that was upsetting because we'd spent months training her, right? But I still have a relationship with her today. In fact, she may be listening. So I think what it is for most people when they try and create leverage is they get discouraged because they're busy. And when they're busy, it's so disheartening and upsetting when someone doesn't work out, when you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into training them, right? So the reason I hired 3 wasn't because I needed 3. It was because I had coaches that helped me anticipate the fact that some of them wouldn't make it. And that what I really needed was one that was really strong. And if 2 or 3 of them made it, then that would help my business explode even faster.
Wow. So, okay. And now before we get into like the buyer expectations, because this is like your specialty, right? You're like the expert at this. You know so much about it. I really want to like get into a little bit more about like what makes Keri tick? What makes you go? Like what's your inspiration, right? What gets you up in the morning, gets you going?
Okay, well, let's not, I'm an emotional person, so if we go too deep, you're going to get me crying on here. But I'll give you kind of the key for me. It's freedom. I have always been someone who feels like I want freedom of choice, my time, my money, my life, when I get to be with my children. So that's really important to me. And whenever I'm at a crossroads and I'm trying to figure out the choice I want to make, whether I'm going to take the easy choice or the choice that will benefit me the most in my life, it always comes back to my gut wanting freedom.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about that is like as agents, sometimes we lack freedom, even though we think we're entering the business to get freedom. And what you've done really well at is like you've leveraged yourself. You've leveraged systems and processes to allow yourself to have freedom while maintaining an amazing business. So good. That's amazing. So
well, and on that note, for me, I knew being a solo agent would never give me the gratification of having freedom, right? Because if a house comes on the market, you have to be available to go show that house, or you're doing a disservice to your client until you get leverage, right? So for me today, you know, I'm traveling, I'm going to events to learn for the team. You saw, I bring my children when I go on those events because I want to put them to bed at night and I want to have dinner with them and I want to be a part of their lives, right? So I've created a situation where my team benefits when I do what I love the most, which is learning and connecting. And I can have my family there, but I could never have got it if I said in the very beginning, I need to make more money every year, right? The hard decision was giving up all that money in the beginning of my career to put the systems in place. And I don't think that's the only way to do it now. I think for people out there that are thinking, I want freedom, I know that I'm getting tapped out, I know that I'm getting burnt out, I have so many clients, and understand, everyone, you're the lucky ones, because the most people are trying to figure out, how do I get those clients, right?
Right.
But for the people who have an abundance of clients, now it's about getting brave and getting clear on your vision. What do you want? And once you have that clarity, that is powerful, and it'll help you make some of the hard sacrifices that you may need to make to build it.
So it's knowing what you want, right? At the end of the day, what's important for you is freedom. I know family is so important to you.
Yeah.
Kids, and you had your mother-in-law, your mom with you last time,
I
right?
had my mom with me. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. So let's get into a little bit about like buyer expectations, because this is the meat.
Yes.
Right. So this is your thing, what you've been able to build an amazing career on. Let's talk about it. So some of the like challenges that we face too as agents, like if you're working with online leads or you have referrals, is setting improper expectations and then creating disappointment.
Yes.
So how have you been able to navigate that, to have like satisfied clients?
Yeah. So the main thing that I said when I was coming on today was, I want to make sure that people take away something real that they can take back to their business and execute it, and it makes a immediate change in the amount of money they're taking home to give themselves a little more freedom, right?
Right.
So I think the hard part about this equation is, when I train like a new team member, I spend 2 weeks training them on everything that we do. So I'm going to focus in on one specific process. I think how you convert a phone conversation is really important. So I'm going to take 2 seconds on that. I think a lot of agents go too far in that phone conversation because they're so focused on building rapport. They dig right into what's important to the person, and then there's no reason to meet. I believe in order to set proper expectations with a buyer, you have to be face to face if they're local, right? If they're out of town, that changes. Maybe you do something like we're doing today, you do a Zoom conversation. But if they're local, you need to create enough value to get in front of them. So it's a step-by-step process. Okay. And that doesn't mean enough value to open the door and show them a house. We have a whole separate training on when it's a showing versus a sit-down appointment, but our ISAs are trained to book sit-down appointments. So if you're out there, my first advice is go steady scripting to get in front of them. And then when you get in front of them, you have to have a really defined process. So for us, it's a 3-step process, and I'm going to focus the most on the 3rd step, but I'm going to go through quickly the 1st and 2nd step. Okay? Yes. So the first step, you're doing a needs analysis. So you're asking everything that's important to the client. And I always say you have to get the need behind the need, right? So if someone tells you they want a big backyard, you need to understand if they're unhappy with their present situation because they don't have a big backyard, what is the pain that's caused by not having that? And there is pain there. But you have to be masterful at how you ask the question to get someone to be vulnerable enough to tell you the truth. Once you, go ahead.
How do you ask the question was going to be my next thing.
How do you ask it? Yeah. Well, you have to listen really closely, and then it's practice, right? So if someone's like, oh yeah, we need a bigger backyard, naturally a lot of agents will say, oh yeah, and how are you going to use the yard? And that's the agents who are really good, right? Some agents are like, okay, cool. They write it down. What else?
Right.
But the good agents are going to say another question to dig a little deeper. In my experience, the excellent agents are the one that once they say, well, we want this, we want that, we want that, And how does that impact you now not having those things for your family?
That's really good. Yeah, because you're going deep with that now.
So I just did this exercise yesterday with my team, and I created so much pain for myself with my backyard. I'm like, well, shit, now I'm going to have to move. Like, it's so effective. It's so effective. I'm in pain and I have a great house. What's wrong with me?
That's awesome.
So that's step one.
Let's do that line real quick. So you said, how does that impact you now? So I need a big backyard. So how does not having a big yard impact you now? Is that the line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's only one example, right? So sharing the bathroom, like some parents, you'll hear them say something, or not having a mudroom. Okay. The deeper answer many times is it's causing these massive fights with the family, right? It's causing tension in the family. So when you get to that level and you understand the true pain, when you go to close them at the end to buy the house, you're not saying, oh, and when you buy this house, you'll have a big backyard. You're saying you'll never have to feel like your children are in danger again because that patio has all those edges.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's powerful, right? It changes.
It does. It changes things a lot. Understanding the pain point is so important. And then you truly understand the motivation, right?
Exactly. So I think people don't ask deeply enough to get to true motivation. They get to surface motivation and they check the box in their little real estate like playbook. Oh yeah, I got timing, I got motivation, but they really don't.
Right.
So that needs analysis is laying the foundation for everything else that you do.
And that's step number one.
Step number one, needs analysis. And let me say something about this. The sequence of the presentation is very important. So for any agents out there that start with a presentation that talks about them, that is the wrong decision. I'd love you to come on here and debate me live. It's the wrong decision. You always focus on the client first. If you want to get their enrollment and listening to you, first you listen to them.
Got it. Okay.
And then we transition to what we call our buyer process. We do not call it a presentation. My team knows this. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. When you want to present to someone, they stop listening because no one wants to be presented to. Do they want to understand the process in your market today, since it's been X amount of years since they bought a home, so they feel really comfortable and know what to expect? Yes.
Right.
You do. They want to know what to expect. They want to feel prepared. So it's all in how you present it, and the words you use are really important.
I was just going to say words are so key here, right? I mean, when you're just using the right words and you're asking questions and you're using proper language and wording to get the message across.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you real quick. Are we still on the phone right now?
No. When you do the needs analysis, my suggestion is you never do the needs analysis on the phone unless someone is not local.
Okay, so this is post ISA appointment.
This is when you're sitting down with them, the 3 steps when you're sitting down. Number 1, needs analysis. Number 2, the buyer process. And in that process, you include the benefits of you. Okay? So you're dispersing it with information that helps them understand what to expect, with the benefits and the key value of working with you and your team, if you have a team, right?
Yep.
So when you move past that, at the end of the presentation, you get the paperwork signed. Okay? So a big mistake that I see that agents make is they just have fear around asking for commitment. I would suggest you practice out loud until that fear goes away and the repetition sets in, and you figure out your own voice for asking whether someone wants to work with you. For my team, it's really simple. For me, when I was personally working with buyers, they wrote a $500 check to my brokerage before I ever put them in my car. Right? So I was the queen of commitment because I did not want to waste my time.
What's really interesting about that? Oh, go ahead.
No, tell me. Go ahead.
What's really interesting about that, I worked in new home construction as well.
Okay.
And we had the homes that we would sell, and then in order for someone to take that home off the market, they had to give us a $5,000 deposit.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go through the entire presentation like a lot of agents would, and then everything was perfect until the very end when you ask for that check. when you
Yeah.
ask for the sale. Why is it that agents and salespeople in general have such a difficult time asking for the sale? Because that's what you're saying, right? You're saying ask for the, really when you're getting that signature, you're closing, you're asking for the sale.
And you're isolating objections, which is actually the most important part, because the new home salespeople that didn't ask for the $5,000 check and went home and had a glass of champagne and celebrated, they were living a complete lie. The client was somewhere else completely. They were celebrating something that wasn't real. And for everybody out there that's like, yeah, I got a new buyer today, that had a random phone conversation with someone who could have talked to 5 other people, and
Right.
you guys, feel like you built rapport, so you're excited and you're celebrating. That's not when to celebrate. When to celebrate is at the closing, because there's a lot of steps that have to happen. And you may, through this presentation that I'm about to talk about, which is step 3, you may learn that some clients that you're really excited about aren't the right clients for you to work with, and that's okay. Better to learn it up front than when you've spent weekends of your life and been away from your family or been away from your hobbies with some client that doesn't buy, right?
Right.
So getting to step 3. Step 2 is a huge step. Like huge. There's a lot to consider and a lot of value that has to be created in that step. But at the end of step 2, we have a slide in our process, and it says, all that we ask in return is for your loyalty. Those are the exact words. And then I teach the agent to put the pen down and say, whatever in their words, but this is the essence, are you comfortable hiring me as your real estate agent? Are you comfortable that we're going to be a good team working together? Does it feel like I'm going to be able to take good care of you in the process? So you can use really gentle words, but you have to use direct words about you and them. Not, how does this sound to you? Because guess what everybody says? Great.
Yeah.
Sounds good. But you're not getting commitment. So am I the right person for you? Fantastic. Now there's a quick form we need to fill out that allows me to represent you and introduce you to all of our off-market properties. So go ahead and sign here.
And then you're quiet.
Yeah, and then shh.
Yeah. And then they sign.
They do. They totally do. And use body language. If they're hesitating, tap where they need to sign. They're like, oh shoot, she told me to. I better do it now.
Yeah, I love it. That's so good.
So I would imagine 80% of real estate agents do not get those agreements signed. Maybe more.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're listening and you think, she might be right. I'm not maybe right. I am right. Just do it. Just figure out how to create enough value that you're doing it, because then you're going to keep those clients.
And the other thing with that, as you mentioned it earlier, is really about confidence, is about being confident enough to know that you're providing value, to be able to ask those questions. And where does that come from? And you hit on it earlier, is practice. If you practice it so many times over and over and over again, it just becomes ingrained in you. It's instinctual. It's natural. It's just boom, you do it, and you don't think about it. And when you don't think about it, you have nothing to worry about. And when you don't have anything to worry about, you're confident.
Yes. And
when you're confident, you get it done. So the scripting that you mentioned earlier, you said go out there and get scripts. Where can people get scripts, number one, and where are some good, if you have any, great. If you don't, it's okay. There's a billion of them online.
Yeah.
If you can recommend any. And then also, do you have anything you could share with us? Like that, like last piece you said, that loyalty thing that you said, like, I
have online courses, hyper fast. If you look up hyper fast agents,
okay,
that's our online community that has exact recordings of our buyer presentation, the whole process we go through in the 3 steps. But the most valuable piece of it that I believe there's probably only about 2% of agents doing is what I'm going to talk about next. And this is a game changer. It's huge.
Drum roll on this.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Are you ready to rumble? Let's go.
So we call this our reality check analysis. And I've posted about it when people have asked different questions on Lab Coat Agents. I did a random webinar and we had about 100 people sign up in like 60 minutes because I said, hey, does anyone want help with this? Because it was a reoccurring issue. Okay. So what I see, it's a conversion challenge, right? When someone comes in and their expectations are unrealistic, agents tackle it in all different ways. But I would imagine there's two ways that are most common. One is they say, I'm the expert and I know the market and what you want doesn't exist. They say it nicer than that, but that's in essence what they do. They're just trying to tell the client, this is why you can't have what you want. And they try and do it up front. Those are the more confident people that sometimes the client is willing to listen and sometimes they shift the expectation and then they move forward and they have a transaction, right?
Yep.
But sometimes it backfires and the client feels like, well, if you can't find me what I want, then I'm going to go find someone who can.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's a potential outcome of going that direction. The other direction, and this is the one that I believe is most common, is that real estate agents say, okay, I'm going to take them out. They're going to see a few homes and then they're going to learn themselves that they can't have exactly what they want, and I'll adjust their expectations over time, and then they'll end up buying a house with me, right?
Yep.
So those are the common paths that I see right now. And when I looked at it, I fell into the category of kind of a mixture of both of those when I first got in the business. I was really confident, so I wasn't afraid to tell people what was true about the market. But I also started to realize a pattern. I tended to get clients that had fired